This video is for geometry, and it has to do with rectangular prisms and the surface area and the volume of that same rectangular prism. And I have to show my face, so. All right, there, I showed it. All right, so first, I guess we start with the calculations. You must calculate and show surface area. So to do that, you use a formula, which is 2 times length times width plus 2 times length times height plus 2 times width times height, and that gives you surface area. So once you input all the numbers from like the, what's it called? The proportions of this, the rectangular prism, you get 78 for the surface area. Now to find the volume, that one's simpler as it's just length times width times height. So it's 5 times 3 times 3 because the length is 5 inches, the width is 3, the height is 3. So you get 45 for the volume. Now, for each like separate rectangle on this, like say this, just here, like by itself separately, the area for that would be 15 per rectangle. And for the squares, which are these, the total area per square is 9. The sum of all the areas, since there's 4 rectangles, you're going to do 15 times 4, since there's 4 rectangles, which is 60, and then 9, which is the area of the squares, times 2. There's 2 squares in this thing. You do 9 times 2 and it's 18. 60 plus 18 is 78, which is the surface area. And as you see, they're the same, because like they're pretty much like you're doing the same thing. Now to answer the questions, A is explain the correlation between surface area and volume. The only definite correlation between surface area and volume that I saw was that they both use the length, width, and height of the rectangular prism. And explain the correlation between the sum of the areas and surface area. Well, the correlation was that they both equal the same number, since they both account for the total area on the outside of the rectangular prism. Now, to explain how we could determine the cost if we were to paint the outside of the prism, I wrote a lot, as you can see. I'm just going to read it. To determine the cost of the paint needed to paint the outside of the rectangular prism, here, you find the total surface area that you're going to paint. In this case, it's 78 square inches. And then you convert 350 square feet, as that's the average amount you can cover per gallon of paint, into inches, since the rectangular prism is smaller and you're using square inches, not square feet. So the average amount of square inches that you can paint per gallon of paint is 50,400 square inches. Since you only need 78 square inches of paint, you determine how many gallons of paint you need for that specific number instead of that huge ass number by cross multiplying, and you'll find out that you need 0.0016 gallons to paint all this 78 square inches. Seeing as 1 gallon of paint costs between $15 and $30, you use the mean or average between those two price points, and you'll get the answer of like an average of $22.50 per gallon of paint. But since you only need 0.0016 gallons and not the whole gallon, you cross multiply again, and you'll get the final cost of 0.0036, which doesn't even amount to 0.5 cent, to pay for the paint needed for your rectangular prism. And yeah.